Pledge of allegiance, and we'll pledge the flag back.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Haley. Here. Tony.
Here.
James.
Here.
Brian. Here. Debbie. Here. Dave.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Aubrey. Here. All present. Agenda adjustments. Thank you for the list that we have of agenda adjustments. For personnel, we have resignations and a couple new positions. Do we have any other agenda adjustments?
I had item 7, old business B, second reading of policies number 8, or add number 8, move to approve the second reading of amended DJ bidding purchasing requirements. As left off. Then we have a copy.
Yeah, perfect. And you had
But according to this, our last policy, it said it was DN, which is actually school property disposition.
it was the
Bidding, DJ bidding,
Yeah,
purchasing.
correct, but according to this, we read DN last time.
So we need to adjust the minutes.
No,
Hearing
no,
Nope, you added that, you had to combine, I think, 2 policies or something rather.
nope.
Oh, DJ was under number 3.
Number 3.
So DN is also on this list. I didn't see it listed, so. But I did see part of that policy added to that new policy, or whatever you guys were doing, I wasn't there.
So to add that to the agenda, without getting into it right now, to add it to the agenda for old business B8, second reading of policy.
DJ.
Yes.
any other agenda adjustments?
These are the ones that are published, right?
Yeah.
I had wanted, and had asked in the past to move the reports to the beginning of the meeting so that the staff could address those. They tend to take a long time with, reading through policies, so if we could just do the admin reports earlier in the agenda.
That's something we can look at for the future, but do we want to add anything to this agenda? Actually, we're also removing the executive session from the agenda. So removing the executive session, adding under old business, number 8, DJ, second reading, and all the ones that we have listed here for personnel. Anything else? Make a motion for those adjustments. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, approval of the minutes. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 6th. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have two things. First, voting to deny the appeal for the student, I actually voted. The vote to deny the student's appeal, I actually voted in favor of supporting the student. So, is it all opposed? I actually voted for. No, our opposite of that, I voted against denying it. So, you all voted to, you all voted to deny the appeal, and I voted to approve the appeal. So that just needs to be changed.
Okay, anything else?
And then under the first reading of policy, you guys had listed DN. And I don't see that as a second reading. Am I missing it?
What are you looking, which item did you want to amend?
Under the first reading of policies on the last school board meeting, we had that we read policy DN, but that is not included on this agenda for a second reading. So, I'm not sure if we just missed adding it in. If you guys try to combine two policies into one, I'm not sure what happened. I wasn't at the policy meeting.
So what are you wanting changed in the minutes? Because that's what we're on.
Did we read DJ last time? 'Cause it's
Yes.
not- So then we'll add DJ to that.
Are you talking DN or DJ? What paragraph are you on?
What do you want changed in the minutes? Under number 3, in the minutes, DJ is listed there.
It's on this side it says DJ, on the other side it says DN.
It's two separate policies. DN is property disposition.
Mm-hmm.
DJ is bidding.
Right.
So they're two separate policies. And we did discuss bidding disposition. But we did discuss DN, school property disposition.
Where's the vote? Can you show it to me?
Yeah, what I believe happened was.
Yeah, I see that, but where's the vote?
Yep, so what happened is Mrs. Euler made a single motion for DN. Retracted motion, and Mr. Reynolds retracted his second. Then Mrs. Euler motion, second by Mr. Stubbs, to approve first readings to review DN, IDB, IK, FB, and JK were all lumped together in one. And then the voting was 7-4, because it was already motioned, it was second, and then we all voted 7 in favor for that as a group rather than a single DN.
So then should we amend it to read DJ on this if it's not there?
No, because we weren't rescinding.
What other changes to the minutes did you want?
That's it?
So just updating the voting?
Yes, I voted in favor.
Any other other discussion?
That wasn't a rescind, that was a big review. There were no changes. First readings of policies, DN, IIB, IKFB, and JK. They were all reviews with no changes. So they were motion, second, and approved as a block. And that's the way the minutes reflect it.
So we don't need to add it to this current agenda.
DN should have been in this current agenda.
But we don't have it, so we'll have to have it for the next.
Well, part of that policy was put into this policy for my review.
Okay, but for the minutes, any other changes? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, the public comments from last time. David, we had you follow up on both of those, so thank you. Did you want to do a summary of those for the minutes?
I think Danielle's, I think we've resolved that. And Ed and I met, but just for the public, Ed's question was regarding why in the budget process do we budget $0 for technical education. And as I explained, there was a time at which that money flowed to the school districts that send to the regional technical centers. That changed. The money now flows directly to the technical centers, so it doesn't come through our budget any longer. And unfortunately, the legislation that sets the format for the annual budget meeting in all the school districts across the state continues to have that section, that piece in it. So we just budget $0. It's not that we don't support technical education, it's just supported in a different manner.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to committee acknowledgements. I'll start with Michael and Aubrey.
Okay. So our Herman cheer team got second at regionals this past weekend. They will be competing at states next Saturday in Augusta. Our unified basketball team is having their first home game here, February 13th, against Hamden at 3:30. Our track team will be competing in their PVC tournament at Orno this Saturday. And this really has been a special season for the track team. There's been a lot more participants on the team than usual, so that's really skyrocketed, and they've been doing a really great job, a lot of PRs. The boys and girls basketball team seasons are wrapping up right now, and they're both looking to be very strong contenders for the playoffs. National Honor Society invitations went out to all juniors that wish to apply. And then I'd like to send out a congratulations to Lily Raleigh for being our Poetry Out Loud school champion, and she will be competing at states.
Student Council is finishing preparation details for Winter Carnival to be held next week. Our Key Club partnered with Birmingham Middle School's Builders Club last Thursday to make Valentine's cards for the Veterans Home. And they're also in the process of getting everything set to bring home some awards from this year's VCon, which will be held in Portland, so we're super excited about that. And then this week, our two JRPC Leadership Academic Bowl teams will compete in round 2. This is a worldwide competition, and hopefully we'll all make it to round 3. And next Monday, we will assist in the Winter Special Olympics at Herman Mountain.
Awesome, thank you. Let's also recognize you, Michael, for your role in wrestling. You've been doing amazing, so congrats. I know Ella on the track team has qualified in the 55 all the way up to the 2 miles. So every single running event, I believe it was said on the post by Mr. Sinclair. I don't know the last time that happened, so that's pretty darn amazing. Key Club came to Kiwanis to do an ask for decon, which was amazing. And let's also recognize these two for being on the front page of the Herman Connection. That's a pretty big deal.
I'd like to recognize Dr. Sargent. Thank you for joining us for the first meeting. I'm sure just as
I know. Listen, that's why we're a team.
So it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for doing the meet and greet. I think it's a great way to open up and build community, and it's very impressive. So I appreciate you taking the extra time to come up and do that. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you again. And Dave is doing a great job, but he's ready to go to camp. So anytime
Dr. Sargent and I met earlier today, and I told her I'd pray every day for a good health.
thank you to Ms. Ida for tonight. It was very nice. Thank you.
I think I'll echo that. It's nice to meet you, and I think we all look forward to working with you and continuing. I just want to say thank you to the administrators and the staff in all the buildings. I have in with the high school, but because we represent the high school students, but I am very proud of all the work and the opportunities that are available to students in this district. So thank you for all the work that goes into it.
Very good. Welcome to Dr. Sargent, and I'm all set otherwise.
Welcome, Dr. Sargent. I apologize. I'd already considered you a Herman Hawk, so I didn't give you the official welcome. Thank you, Brian. We're now going to open it up to public comments. Just a reminder, this is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on agenda items, contribute info that may be of interest to the school committee, or ask clarifying questions. Please wait to be recognized and identify yourself before speaking. It's not the time to register complaints or promote a personal agenda, and please remember that you may not identify any person by name or job function. We'd now like to welcome Greg Newell.
Greg Newell. My family moved here for the small town environment, and we had high hopes that Herman would be our forever home. I quickly became involved in the schools and the community. We never imagined that we'd be faced with the retaliation that we experienced after I spoke out about things I knew were wrong and were hurting the students and the teachers. The resistance, the outright refusal to keep them safe was dumbfounding to me. I recently attended a function with people from across the state. I found it interesting when a board member from Southern Maine shared how their alleged incompetent superintendent was advised by the school law firm to blackmail the school board with a lawsuit so they could collect a very large payout. They claim this is a new scheme being pushed by the school attorneys. Is that what happened here? Is that why Chair Euler refuses to explain how the unbudgeted increase of $64,000 appeared in the salary line of the former superintendent? This money was not voted on. If so, prove it. I'd like the committee to explain to the students and staff why you all took $64,000 away from the students' education. This sounds like an extortion at the taxpayers and the children's expense. Chair Euler, you have proven your priorities are all wrong to serve this community. To the new superintendent, I've heard great things about you. I have high hopes that you can finally turn things around, but it's going to be harder with a dysfunctional school community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Newell. Next up, we'll move on to personnel, retirement. Okay. We've got 5 listed there and some resignations.
I just would speak to the retirements. It's been wonderful for me to have an opportunity to meet with those folks who are retiring and hear their stories. Many of them have spent their full career here in Herman, which says a lot about the community and the school system. Just a story, one of them shared with me that this was their 49th year, and they'd all been here in Herman. She had taught for a number of years, then was going to retire, but immediately came back as an ed tech. And I said, oh, it's wonderful, 49 years in education, that's something to be proud of. I went on, and I said, what year did you start? And she told me. And I said, well, that's the same year I started. So, but it's, you're very fortunate. These people who are retiring, many of them have donated, committed their total career here in Herman. So that's doesn't happen often. So it speaks well of them and of your community.
Thank you. Next, I will make a motion to approve the 6 coaching positions as listed, as well as the 2 volunteer positions. Actually, I think there's 7 there. No, there's 6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next business, we didn't have any members excused last time. I make a motion to approve the second reading to review IIB, IKFB, and JK. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any extensions?
Could you clarify, are you adding DJ to this or not?
DJ,
DJ isn't a review,
Okay.
it's an amendment.
any other discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to rescind IJNDA, IKFBB. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend ECB. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend IKB. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend IMDD. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend JIC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have it flagged.
I think the only adjustment was you guys added in red all the policies within there.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
You're good.
Thank you.
Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend JICIA. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to approve the second reading to amend DJ. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have questions, I guess. First, who works on this policy? Did you work on this policy? You both?
We were in the meetings, what is your question?
The only thing that was being added was under F, after offering it to the town, because that was to, Alex, help me out, that was to reduce the conflict between the two policies.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. That's the only change that's being done.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, let's talk about school committee quarterly training, establish some dates and subjects to cover. Anyone have any ideas?
I threw some things down on this, it's kind of something I was looking into. We've already moved through our first quarter and recognizing the change of superintendents and the time constraints with it. I ironed it back or pulled it back to just two subjects right now, pending any requests from within the committee. And that's boardsmanship and Maine School Board Association Delegate Assembly and the budget process. What is the correct way to run the budget? It's starting with boardsmanship. I know in our goal, we said that we were gonna do the second and third quarter of this year and the first and second quarter of 25-26. So my recommendation is that boardsmanship and Maine School Board Association Delegate Assembly be scheduled for July of 2025, which would be the first school committee meeting after the June election. So it kind of resets and does how we're going to move forward through the year. And then the other one was the budget process, and it's funny, ironic, I guess. I was talking to Mr. Walker, and he said, in hindsight, you probably should have started a little earlier. And I actually wrote down the budget process as a developmental how we want to move forward, and then have that and put that down as October to start the budget process in October, which would be the second quarter of the fiscal year 26. And then whatever the committee would like to recommend.
Any other ideas? I think July and October are great targets.
Can you explain, I don't necessarily agree with the delegate assembly, so can you explain why that would be a priority for this committee, or how that would benefit?
Yeah, we get a lot of public comment that is related to items that aren't specific or are statewide concerns. And they are posed to us as a school department and as a school committee as if we can action some of these larger items when they are really, looking for Representative Thorne, they're really legislative issues that the school board should weigh in on. And the process in which the Maine School Board Association lobbies, if you would, to find a better word, is through the delegate assembly. So if we're not actively participating in the delegate assembly, then we're missing out on an opportunity to have our voice be heard down in Augusta. And I was sold on that this year because I was lucky enough to represent UTC, and thanks to working with their director, we were able to insert language from the UTC side into the state delegate, or into the state delegate assembly that included dependable and predictable budget planning from the state. And those sort of words mean things when I look back at our representative with the legislative process. So if we have people stand up and ask us as a school committee, what are we doing about issues that are really at the legislative level, this is our official voice, is through the Maine School Board Association Delegate Assembly. So that I'm a believer in it, and that's why I think we should receive training on it, on how it actually works, not what I've been able to glean out of participation in reading on it, to have them actually come and talk to us about it.
Any other ideas of what other people would like to see?
We have higher priorities of things that are more critical to kind of get training on,
Such as?
Robert's rules.
Yep, that would fall under boardsmanship.
I support the budget planning, that's kind of, I've always been echoing that same theme. Boardsmanship, I've been asking for a subcommittee policy for 2.5 years. Every single next agenda item, I always say subcommittee policy, understanding how subcommittees are supposed to function.
So what are you asking for training?
So I think we, as a committee, need training on how subcommittees are supposed to function, and working on getting a policy on the books of what they are, how they function, is there a chair, all of those things.
I agree with you, absolutely, and that is one of the expectations that would come out of the boardsmanship that we would request from Maine School Management, like they tried, but they did somewhat, it's been almost 2 years now, but to have them come and provide that for us, I think it would give me some better insight on how to help moving forward with how do we run our subcommittees. Let's get some training on it, and that could come from Maine School Management and the boardsmanship that they offer. It's been 2 years since, it will be 2 years since we've had that
October, I think it was.
training.
Right, respectfully, they have a handbook and it's all outlined right in there. We just read it as a group.
So what additional training is anybody thinking beyond that? Because I agree, Brian, those are important topics. We could certainly make a motion for it to be those.
Requires a
If we
motion,
need it
or
or
just-
not, but
I agree, I think that those are important topics. I think based on the discussions that the board has had, over the years, working through different things, I think that those bits of information, and planning, training on those things would be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it would be that we're falling short of our goal, but we're a work in progress. So I move that we approve the training of boardsmanship and Maine School Board Association Delegate Assembly and the budget process for July and October respectively.
Second. Any more discussion? Any abstentions?
I'm saying the change happened in July.
Those are,
Yeah.
those are projected to July for MSBA because we're starting a new.
Almost anyone, really. We're always changing an election in June.
Yep, so election in June, new school board starts in July, however the elections work out, and now we've got the,
It should be the
election.
end of June, because then you'll have a good way to start it.
No, because the new people don't
Yeah,
get on until July 1st.
July 1st.
Any other discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I'd like to open it up for new business to the public. Close public comment. I move to approve the first reading of the 2025-26 school calendar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just have one clarification. We haven't had an update on the voting for the voting location at elementary school, and it sounds like that situation was probably going through. I didn't see that as a remote day anymore. Is that correct?
This is my first time seeing the calendar. I was going to ask about it as well.
Okay.
We typically, Mr. Walker, have a remote day on the voting days because the site is at the elementary school, and the community has felt very strong about not holding voting while students are in session on site. So I haven't heard anything about a change in venue from the state. So that was actually brought up my question.
I want to ask Mr.
Yes,
Wilson.
it's my understanding the change of venue will be Herman High School. And we will not go remote, we will be in session.
Always the last to know. Okay.
Sorry. Has Kristen got the official approval yet, though? She might not have from the state.
I
Yeah,
don't think it's official, but it's
it's in the works.
in the works, so that's why most likely that's not.
Merry
on there.
Christmas.
Yes.
Hey, we welcome the opportunity, the democratic process in action by at Herman High School.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Smooth.
The only other thing I know,
Before we close that.
I'm not closing it yet. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is there a way we could propose that if the change does not happen, we can discuss now and approve a remote day if the change does not happen? If the change does happen, to not have a remote day, that we can just pre-approve that now.
Sure. Well, I mean, we certainly could, but this calendar that we're approving is without a remote day, so I'm assuming that it's happening, is the way I would look at it also. I mean, we certainly could, but what we have doesn't reflect one.
If you notice on the right-hand side, it notes a remote day, we just don't have it on the calendar.
Correct.
It won't change the start date, the end date, the number of days or anything, it's just locating that date and highlighting it on the calendar so that parents would know. So by approving the calendar, and you're approving if that remote day is needed, we'll place it on the calendar. If it doesn't have a day or end of days, that take away anything, so it's just a matter of highlighting it in that fuchsia color
Yes.
on the calendar somewhere, so.
Would you be able to take that as a follow-up item, Mr. Walker, to follow up with the town manager on that, please?
Sure.
Because it does affect 2 dates at least, I think, June and November, so.
And then, of course, there's that interest, I gotta bring it up, of the graduation date, of the amount of spring track athletes that we're gonna have and the impact on graduation for that. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Walsh, the junior class makes up about 20% of, help me out, 20%.
Yeah, about 20%, that's accurate, about 25 students.
So, help me out with the date when we really gotta, I know we should be deciding now.
So when we have our commencement in June, I will sign the contract for next year.
Okay.
We have a little bit of time, but I want, the reason I put it on the plate
Yes.
early was, if we're going to do that, I can reach out now, as they do book events at the Cross Insurance Center, so the sooner we book, the better. And if it's something we're going to do, something we're gonna change, obviously I'd like them to know ahead of time. It also has a ripple effect over senior events, activities, et cetera.
And that would, the only possibility at the Cross Insurance Center is potentially Friday?
Again, this is
Yeah.
a board decision,
Yeah, but is it?
but that.
Yes, I have a vested interest in that
Right,
date, but I'm
You would
curious.
be looking at, my recommendation, we go back to the same date we graduated in 2003, for those of you who were here. That was that Friday, first Friday of the month versus the Saturday.
Because Sunday isn't an option, though,
Sunday
correct?
is
Is
not
where
an
I was
option
going.
at the Cross or at the Maine Center for the Arts.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, those are both booked.
So you're looking at June fifth.
So it would be June 5th on this calendar, correct? Versus the 6th.
When would we know, I'm just always interested in the statistics, when would we know how many juniors are doing spring track?
Next March, a year from March?
No, for the juniors.
Yeah, for this
So
year,
we'll know in March?
we should know by the end of March.
This is only affecting this particular year, is that right?
No, this
Oh,
is
no,
gonna
it'll
be
be
going
from this-
forward, graduation will be potentially on a Friday or a,
Because the Saturday track meet is
Statement.
They should
Correct.
just move that.
that's what I said too.
Yeah.
There's a reason Bangor and Brewer have the Sundays. That way they don't interfere with the track meet on Saturday.
Yes, this is not just this year, this is the first year that we're evaluating it because of the numbers that track is having.
We build the track and now kids will run the track. Correct.
So just,
Just
No.
for calendar purposes though, it's like the
Yeah.
remote day. It doesn't change the number of days, the day you start, the day you end. It's just for notification purposes. So giving approval to the first reading of the calendar
100%.
doesn't depend, although we do want to keep that.
I just want that in there as the discussion, because Mr. Walsh brought that up early to us, and it's a valid point, so. Any other discussion for that? Any abstentions?
So, when will you, why are we doing, also approving that? Should we just make sure we put it on the agenda for next time?
Yeah, I think next time, no, I
We're approving the first reading of it, so we're keeping it going.
sure,
I just,
I don't,
for him to make minutes as to book. That's about it today. If we're going
that's a
that
big
way.
decision to move graduation from a Saturday to a Friday, a really, really big
It does,
decision.
it affects a lot of families, so, and I don't know, there's 25 students, but
I guess
that year,
That would be 25 seniors.
But the bigger
Right,
question
so
for me is how many are qualifying for states who would be participating in it too, and that varies every
That's
year
right.
too, you
That
know,
is
so it's hard to say, because yes, there was a lot that did winter, but they also do other spring sports, right? So I think that we have time, is what I'm hearing, and we don't need, yeah. He brought it to us early, so I appreciate that. Any abstentions? All those in favor of first reading?
Do a motion.
I thought I motioned, did somebody second it?
yeah, because that was your discussion.
Do you have the second, Patrick? Thank you.
Brian.
Oh, okay, sure.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, I'm going to turn it over to David for the budget draft review.
So at your place, I left a bunch of paper. The big pile of papers with the binder clip is to take home, and if you can't sleep tonight, page into that, I guarantee you 4 or 5 pages in, you'll have enough. So I tried to summarize what that all says for you, and so there's a sheet there that says FY '26 Herman School Department budget notes. So the expenditure budget, as after a great deal of work with the administrative team, we have come to a place where we are at, it's an increase of the non-payroll accounts are an increase of $254,557.54. The non-payroll accounts, though, include facilities and transportation, and in that number, there are 2 big ticket items. There's a second bus and $175,000 worth of paving at the middle school. So the administrators have done a great job of combing through, making sure that the budgets accurately reflect what is needed to provide what students will need for next year. And without those 2 big ticket items, the budget is pretty much flat. In fact, it's reduced a bit, so, with that. The payroll budget on the other side, reflects an increase of $1,186,264.76. That's no new staff members. There are no additional staff. That's current staff rolled ahead via their current negotiated contracts. Altogether, that reflects an increase of $1,440,822.30, or a gross budget increase of 7.3%. On the revenue side, we recently received from the state our total funding for the year. The ED 279 state subsidy will be $9,305,189.81. This reflects an increase of $397,000 over FY25. In order to receive that state funding, the town is required to raise $4,441,511. I'd be happy to share this written copy with anybody after the meeting if they, so you're not trying to get this all down. That reflects a $140,497 increase to the required local contribution. I caution you though that all of this is based on the budget that the governor has put forward to the legislature. And as you know, the legislature is facing a difficult session with $500 million shortfall and some uneasiness about federal funds and what might exist and what might not. So nothing is sure until the legislature adjourns and this funding is assured. So the revenue budget overall, if you go down the list of revenue sources, you can see that last year we budgeted revenues of $19,728,262 without taking any money from fund balance. Last year you took $1,399,848 from fund balance. And you used $60,000, or you budgeted $60,000 over reserve funds for a total revenue budget of $19,728,262.97, which matched your expenditure budget. That's how you were going to fund your expenditure budget. This year, without taking money from fund balance or reserve funds, and the local additional being what it was. Again, I subtracted from the $1,133,000 the additional local required, so that the local additional was even to the town. Right now, you have revenues of $18,619,654. That's a lot of numbers, and I don't expect you get that. But here's the challenge. Here's the key. So the proposed expenditure budget as it stands right now, and as I said, the non-payroll side of the budget is pretty much flat, other than those two large ticket items. The proposed budget of $21,180,529 with anticipated revenue of $18,619,654. That's a $2,560,874 hole to fill. And so we still have some challenges ahead of us to work through as a board to get this budget to where it needs to be in order to be acceptable to the citizens of the town of Herman.
Thank you. I would agree, we definitely have a long way to go. And my hope had been that we would be able to have the discussion to have had time to review this at this committee meeting. So because we are all getting the information at the same time, and this is the first time that I'm seeing these numbers as well, so thank you for getting it to us all at the same time. I appreciate it.
Just one more thing before you go on. There are two larger pieces of paper that I passed to you. If you want a breakdown of the expenditure budget, it actually is one piece, both sides, trying to save a little money here. One side is the total expenditure budget, you can see the breakdown, and the other is a payroll breakdown for you. Because that obviously is the largest part of any school budget statewide, hands down. We're a people-driven machine, and so the payroll budget is the largest part of any school budget. So all of that information is there. I meet weekly with the administrators to review and look and continue to try to make this as doable as possible while providing the quality education that Herman has come to enjoy and expect. So we'll continue along that line. I made a promise to the incoming superintendent today that I would have this done by April 1st. I'm close to.
So my question that I have, because this is a lot of pages, and thank you for the detail, is it possible to, I know it's double-sided, but drop it on the scanner and make it electronic so that people can see that? So again, we're gonna have other versions so that we're not having to continue to print the pages. And for the Thursday, February 13th schedule, we're gonna keep the schedule the same, but I want to amend the one, Jody, for Thursday, February 13th, for that to be a special board meeting. And it will still be at 4 p.m. in the high school, but I want to open it up to anybody that wanted to be able to attend, to be able to ask questions, because we didn't have the opportunity to do that tonight. And then again, like I mentioned, the rest of the meetings will stay the same.
Ms. Euler, though, it seems pretty premeditated to have asked for all of this information to be shared so that we could, and when I tried to speak at the finance meeting and you refused to allow me to speak, you said we would be able to come to this meeting and speak, and then I've asked for weeks to have this information, and then now you're saying we're at this meeting and you're also not letting us ask questions?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is I'm giving everybody an additional opportunity at the next meeting.
An additional, because we can ask now?
Can I finish, please? At the subcommittee meeting, I asked you to email me what it was that you had for questions. I haven't seen anything.
Did you respond to my emails?
No, I'm not gonna even reply to you. And so, yep, it is.
So when you say that, Ms. Euler.
So this meeting, I'm opening it up on the 13th to include the entire committee, because I want everybody to have a say. If there's something you want to bring up now, by all means, please do. I'm just giving us an additional opportunity to collaborate.
When you say additional, I just wasn't sure when the first time will be.
Well, we're just all seeing this for the first time today. I have not seen any of these numbers. I know that it's a conception that I have, but I have not seen these numbers. So it's not fair to ask people to be prepared to talk about something that they haven't had time to review, is it? I mean, if you'd like to say something, by all means, feel free.
By design. It's done so that we can't ask questions.
No, it is not.
I do have questions. And you just said just a moment ago, you said that we won't be able to talk about it because we didn't all have it, which we've been asking for, and the document did exist, and it was refused to be given to us.
That's not true. This is the first time I've ever seen this document.
The documents that we had for the first meeting were different from these. I mean, obviously, we didn't have the revenue side of the equation at that first meeting because the 279 had not been released by the state. We were seeking direction at that first meeting as an administrative team as to where you'd like to go. We went back and have been working at double checking, looking at ways to find savings in the non-payroll side. There was a general sense that I got from that first meeting that we didn't want to look at the payroll side until we absolutely had to, and I get that. And so this is a process. One of the things that Brian mentioned, and I mentioned to him before the meeting, and again I shared with Dr. Sargent earlier today. My first piece of advice, first of probably a bazillion for Dr. Sargent will be, and she knows that, is that the budget process needs to start earlier than January. I mean, this has been a lot to have happen in a very short amount of time. And so I commend the administrative team for the hard work they've done. I commend Jamie for the work that she's done. all as along, we still have a school system to run. We still have payrolls to do, we still have W-2s to get out, we have all of those things to do. This is all, so this is a tight schedule when you start in January and you want a budget by mid-March, a $20 million budget. So everybody's gotten the same information at the same time. Nobody had this until today, only because it wasn't ready until today. Jamie and I worked for it up until the time we left to come to this meeting to make sure that we had these correct and that the numbers were accurate. And so I look forward to moving forward.
I could not agree with you more that we need to start sooner.
So with that being said, I have several questions or several things that I want to mention which would be beneficial, or you could just clarify and I don't send them in an email because you do not reply. So, or I've sent you several emails and you don't reply. So when you say send it to me in an email, what is the point if I don't get a response?
Haley, what would you like to ask today about the budget?
I have several questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. When you gave the information at the last meeting and I've looked at old budgets, one thing that was funded in there that we no longer do is hospital funding and educating in the hospital. We took that policy, rescinded that policy, so I was wondering why we're still funding that if we don't do it.
You'd have to tell me where that is.
Okay, and I will email you these, but I would like also the opportunity to ask them. Another concern I have are legal fees. In the past several years, it used to be about $5,000. I see you budgeted $30,000. Last year, we spent over $98,000 in legal fees. One option would be to do an RFP for legal services to see if we can get cheaper services elsewhere. And or are we under budgeting for that line item?
We're hoping for better days.
I agree. I think we're already doing much better. It's been
I think $98,000 is obscene.
it is obscene.
That's not a statement about this board, or it's about what legal fees are, but I think that we can do better.
I agree. And I think we are, because I think it's like under 5,000 or so. I'm unsure how we're doing the budget when we haven't even seen the audit, for audit numbers. That wasn't unclear. How do we know where we need to get to if we haven't looked at numbers or money that we've already spent from last year? Have we justified that we need to go up so much when we are usually under?
The FY '24 audit is complete, other than
Last minute details from Peter Hall. He was here mid-January to gather some of the final pieces that he hadn't had a chance to review at his last visit. And so we're just waiting on him to finalize everything. As far as I know, he has everything from the school that he needs.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything further from him.
Do we have any excess? Does it look like we might have excess from that budget?
the FY '24 budget, we have a number, it's still in here.
Right.
If you look at the page that has designated reserve, designated, undesignated fund balance, if you look, it talks about fund balance as of 6/30/24. So we know that for the FY '24 budget, we used $827,000 in fund balance. We budgeted $1 million.
Right.
We used $827,000. How that works is at the end, the fund balance is used to fill whatever gap is left at the end. And that's what they use. Obviously, we won't have FY '25 until next year at this time. So as far as the budget being, the audit being returned, what's left is simply federal, making sure we dotted the I's and crossed the T's, or all compliance. The number piece is there. That's the number.
It also gives us an actual, an audited actual, so.
Well, I mean, that's what the auditor is giving us. But we don't have the completed audit, but he's assured us it's not a number deal. What's holding up the rest of giving us a lot of maybe handling hold in our hands, is just finishing up compliance items.
Other things I saw in there that, this is where I was working with Mrs. Duran, that they started the Greater Herman Athletic Complex group, so to speak, through the town, and they were gonna have these donors, they just put that policy forward, and they're gonna have money in there that, according to the policy, they will help maintain these projects if they choose to have us built. And my concern is when I see $25,000 to redo the tennis courts, I can see why that's a priority. But what's the point if the town has this money and they're putting all these donors in to maintain that, when that money should be coming from that fund, so that's not in our school budget? Which, it'd be more in the superintendent to work with the town manager about how those are going to be expended. And I've tried to mention this to the town council, and I haven't yet to receive, and the manager, a response of how that is supposed to work and why we're putting them in our budget if that's something that they're going to be maintaining through those donations. If that makes sense.
I certainly don't know the history of that. So,
I wouldn't expect you to have the answer to all the questions, but you wanted the opportunity to read them. So
Thank
I
you.
did too.
Thank you. Are capital improvement projects in here? I haven't seen this new one. I didn't see any capital improvements.
there are the one large capital improvement projects, and there's the paving I mentioned, it's $175,000. There are some doors that are noted in the assessment that needed to be replaced. Another project that is in there is the door lock system, the card reader system, security. We're waiting on a third bid on that project, but it's probably going to be in the $80,000 range. That's after getting 3 bids, so the number's fairly solid. So those are the major projects. If you look at in this stack of papers, if you look at the facilities piece, you'll see what Jason has in there for other smaller projects, but those are the bigger projects.
How many positions, because this doesn't have the staff, how many positions are staffed in the budget, but they're not actually, they're in the budget, but they're not currently filled staffed positions that we're not utilizing?
Well, we have the one health position, but it's staffed, with a substitute at this point. So we've been offering help in the middle school all year with a substitute teacher. So it's staffed, not with a teacher, but with a sub. But I'm looking at my administrators, is there any other positions that were budgeted that aren't filled?
2 custodians. I have 2 custodians short. I'm sorry, I thought I saw in the report that we were 2 custodians short.
Well, their money's in the budget for them.
They're budgeted, but they're not here. I thought the question was,
There's no extra people in the budget that's drafted that aren't actually filled
that we
positions.
aren't currently paying for. They may not have staff, but we're filling those holes with either substitutes or we're paying our current employees overtime to get the work done.
I thought your question was, what do we have for vacancies?
In other words, sometimes there will be positions in a budget, whether it's state or whatever, and then they hold that position with the money, but it's not actually filled or changed or replaced. So everyone's gone through and made sure that every person is accounted for. Okay. And then as far as the lunch program, and this is just as a novice, I'm not sure. When I see this $50,000 that keeps getting budgeted, is that for like in addition or foods in addition to what the state's reimbursing?
There's no money in this budget budgeted for food service this year.
Not this year,
And there hasn't been for a
not
couple of
25
years.
or 26.
But as an aside to that, the school food service budget is a separate entity. It's not in the regular school budget. If we were asking for additional monies, it would be a separate article in the warrant for food service. But the food service has been a self-sufficient operation for, it looks to me, for at least a couple of years.
Couple of years.
And I'd love to tell you that it has to do with our wonderful program that we offer here, because it is a very good program. But when the state voted to make universal free meals, then that took the pressure off the food service. But it moved the pressure to the state budget, but that's not my problem today.
David, when will you need the list of these questions emailed to you guys to be able to have a response for next Thursday's meeting?
If it's emailed to me, I will make it a priority.
By what
We
day though?
definitely, I'll have it, if you have it, what's today, Monday? I will have, within a day of you sending me the
Oh,
email,
he was gonna say.
I will have.
You answered most of them, so you're great. I guess the only other question, and it maybe it's out in the room, but how much money are we spending in this budget for Maine School Board Management Services? Which is not a number you may have, but I mean, I know we pay a lot of money for various things that we may or may not necessarily need.
If you look under, system administration, that MSMA membership, MSDA dues, $5,079.
But there's also other services we buy.
It's on page 2.
In the packet, I even put that one.
Yes.
Numbers, budget, number 6.
Number 6, system
Page 2.
administration, page 2.
I feel like whenever I'm reading through the warrants, we're always cutting massive checks. I'm not sure. It could be the dues.
To Maine School Management,
Sometimes it's
our
dues.
dental insurance is through Maine School Management. Maybe those are the ones that you're thinking of.
I think sometimes it's dues too. That are dues that go through there.
There's usually just a year's worth of dues for MSMA. MSBA, MSMA are all kind of like conglomerate, but it's either dues or dental insurance for the most part, off the top of my head.
So the MSBA, the Maine School Boards Association, is that dues number. MSMA would only be if you're buying services such as dental insurance, or if you were doing a superintendent search and you were hiring them to do the search, those things. There's no set fee for membership. MSMA is not a membership organization, they're a service organization. So they, the insurance, they provide insurances, they provide, like I say, services such as superintendent searches, training, those kind of things.
I thought they paid $25,000 to them to have them work on our policies.
If you contracted with them for, it's not a set fee that you pay year after year, you would contract with them to provide that service. I don't believe that there's that money in this year's budget. I hope not.
That's it for me.
I would ask anybody on the committee after reviewing this, if you could email as many questions over to Mr. Walker, CC, myself, so that we can give them adequate time to be able to reply to those. That'd be great. Any other questions right now, Tony?
Yeah, if, should we invite the town council to this meeting on Thursday or wait a meeting before? Because if we do invite the town council, we're gonna want a joint meeting, so if more than 3 of them show up, then it's not any legal meeting.
I think right now, just the 2 of them will be coming, but that's not a bad idea, Tony.
Well, eventually,
Sure.
we're gonna want a joint meeting, I would assume,
I agree.
once we
We could look
somewhat have solid numbers.
second reading perhaps. What day is that, March 10th? That's a good point, Tony, thank you. Anything else? All right, thank you for all the work on that so far, David and team. Next, we'll move to administrative reports, and we'll take them as stated unless anybody had any specific questions.
Usually do, sorry. For the AD report, I don't, he's not here, but if you could just trickle this back to him. Hockey never gets mentioned, and it's a growing sport in this town. We actually have 5 hockey players as freshmen that are having a very successful season, and yeah, if you could just add that in there, it would be nice to have a shout out to them as well. And I was going to reach out about maybe having it in the yearbook. I don't know if someone can reach out to Mr. Murray, because I don't know if they've been included in the past, but
I think they do have a section in the yearbook where they include other smaller sports that are cooperative with other schools.
They haven't done pictures. I've actually volunteered to go ahead and take pictures.
They can only put it in the yearbook if people on the team submit the photos, because I think the past 3 years they've asked for photos and people haven't really submitted them.
And there's other sports as well. I mean, there's wrestling, there's swimming, there's many others.
I think they sometimes get mentioned, but I think they're all important, so I think it's worthy to have them in there. For IT, my question, I guess, proposals aren't coming before the board, they're just coming as a final pick, and that has led us into trouble in the past where decisions were made. I'm not sure why the RFPs aren't coming to the board, all of them, when we're,
I don't know, our policy offhand, I'd have to look. Does the policy say that it's supposed to come to the committee?
The policy doesn't state that we'll review the RFPs.
It just states that they have to get 3, I
if you
believe.
look at your bidding and purchasing requirements, right? You just went over that, and your federal procurement laws.
That's the federal procurement laws, yes.
So when we're looking at fair and balanced purchases, we are putting ourselves in jeopardy by choosing one that's handed to you without seeing that there were 3 others that are in compliance.
But the question was, do we have to see the RFP beforehand? We don't approve the RFP beforehand.
Not the RFP, the bids when they come back.
Okay, the question was, do we see and approve the RFP? And the
I will
answer is no,
rephrase
it's
my
not.
statement. When those RFPs, when the bids are coming back from the RFP, they are being pre-selected and handed it to us when we're supposed to be looking at all 3 to make sure that we're voting on. It's a trustful process so that we're all sure.
Are you speaking specific to IT? Because the last RFP that we approved was the refrigerator, and all 3 RFPs, or all 3 proposals, all 3 bids were provided for us.
I'm speaking specifically to IT because he had it in his, he was going to choose one and bring it back to us. So out of abundance of caution, especially in my department, I want to make sure that we're all involved so that we are.
We were waiting on third bid.
Yeah, I will certainly bring all 3 proposals forward. I will definitely bring forward the recommendation based on all 3, but I will make sure the committee has a chance to review all 3 before making a decision. That's no problem at all.
That's the way I understood what you were putting, Mr. Ricketts.
Yes, if I misworded it, that's clearly.
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to be, I'm trying to be cautious and very involved so that we're all aware and everybody's,
Yeah, no problem. When we get there, I'll make sure you guys get a chance to review.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a question on finance. Not specifically to your report, but if you can just explain how warrant articles work, and I've just noticed that it's been a consistent few people that tend to stop into the office. What happens if one of us isn't available? Like, how does that process work?
The warrants,
Signatures.
the signatures. So we have to have one signature to release the payments, to mail the checks. 3 signatures to finalize them for the packet. That would be the majority of the 5 Herman members. I'm gonna defer to Mr. Walker. I have no idea what happens if we don't get all 3 signatures.
So here's the choice if there aren't 3 signatures on those warrants. The superintendent either lets the lights go out, the heat get turned off, the buses go off the road, and we send teachers home without a paycheck. That's what happens. The superintendent that you have here for the next 60 days is not going to allow that to happen. He's going to pay the bills, and he's going to continue to serve students. And if the board wishes to take action to send him home, that's fine too. But yeah, I'm assuming that unless somebody says to me, I've got a problem with that warrant, that's why I'm not signing it, then it's, now we've not had that happen. We've had 3 signatures on every warrant, and that's been good. Haley's question is, and it's a fair question, so we've had 3, what if we only had 2? Well, telling you what's gonna happen, because you've gotta continue to run the schools. So if there's some dysfunction as to why people aren't signing the warrants, we need to have that conversation and not let it come to a situation where students suffer the consequences of somebody not signing the warrant for valid reasons, and I have no idea what they might be. So, but that hasn't happened yet. I don't expect it will happen, but just so you know, that's what happens if the warrants don't get signed. Technically, you can't pay the bills, and if you can't pay the bills, you can't operate your school.
And then the last question was on facilities. Are we going to have a book a meeting for that so that we can go over the assessment from Carpenter Associates and talk about? I know you have a lot with the budget, and it sounds like none of that information is going to be included in the budget.
When is our next facilities meeting? I think it's March. I think it's March. I'm willing to move that up, whatever you could wish to do. We do have those facilities assessments, current facilities assessments.
Well, unfortunately, we have like $12 million worth of needs, but we have no money that we'll be lucky if we pass the budget we have. So, but people should know we don't have enough money in our reserves, we don't have enough money in our repair reserves, and there is a lot of stuff that as step one needed to be done yesterday, but Mr. Davis is right on top of stuff and he won't let anything go down, but we should at least consider it in the budget process that we need more money in our reserves for the maintenance of the 3 schools.
Anything else on the administrative reports?
Just thank you, Mr. Walsh, for the parent information and extending that invitation to the school committee members who didn't see that. It's on March 5th and 6th. A shout out to, should have gone out to those parents on the emails, and it was also on social media, the Hawks View newsletter from curriculum. If you guys have any interest in the curriculum that's there. And then I know the 8th grade fundraiser, I saw that. If we can get if there's any approvals for that, we can get ahead of it, because obviously we support it.
Everything's free in the state, so there won't be ever.
Good. That's great.
Anything else on reports? Okay, possible future agenda items. Dave?
All set, thank you.
Debbie?
Thank you.
James?
All set.
Tony?
All set?
Haley? All set. Brian?
I'm good.
All set. Next, I move to approve the 9 warrants as listed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next, I move to adjourn the meeting at 7:40 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries again.